It's a fact you're not here. You ain't even real, but you still bring me fear. You make my bones so tired that my soul stands up. But now I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. It's like I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. Oh.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Working Wing, the vague, nebulous online entity in which we come together to rage at modern events from a working left-wing perspective. My name is Tim Schultz, and joining me, as always, my longtime debate partner and a man who makes Joe Biden addressing Congress look like Joe Biden in Congress, Killian Collins.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. It's been an event. It's surprisingly for the State of the Union, it's been a couple of interesting weeks of surrounding events to kind of have that happen. Especially with the little thing, the hysteria last week over the biggest military threat that America has faced since World War II, the giant Chinese rubber spy machine that we can easily see from the sky.
Yeah. A bunch of people in Montana could see from the sky, but apparently it took like 4 times for the Pentagon to actually
shoot it,
to actually spot and figure out what the hell is going on with these things.
Yeah,
that's a weird story.
And the fact that they had to wait till it was over water, because guess what? It was more dangerous to shoot the fucker down than it was to actually just, let it fly over. Because, it could have just like fallen on somebody and then suffocated him before someone even got over there to take it off of him. So
I keep saying it's like the size of like 3 buses together and weighed like 6 tons or some ridiculous shit like that. It's a crazy little balloon.
Yeah, it's the menace, the menace, the deadly menace. But no, that'll be interesting to listen to this after this week. But I don't know, Tim. When I was watching the State of the Union address, I was at work. I was listening to it at work, rather, and I was having quite a few bits of just like, oh fuck, like I get just a bits of rage coming out, bits of working class rage, listening to a guy who's never worked in his life. I'm gonna put that banner up while you're at it.
Yeah, I get it, man. It says man who hasn't worked a real job in 40 years. There was a number of those. All right, before we get into
before we go into it
from a critical perspective, I want to say, actually, I want to give props to the White House communications team, because that was actually, as like a work of speechcraft and a work of rhetoric, I thought it was actually rather well done.
No,
if we have more people on the left who could write like that, and maybe find someone who's not a octogenarian with a speech impediment to deliver those speeches, we could actually maybe get somewhere.
Yeah, but, Tim, I was gonna say it was I don't really envy the position of these White House communications teams. I really don't, because you have a pretty unpopular president that really isn't well liked, with a lot of division in the country.
Yes.
And they're trying to get off that, George. They're kind of trying to just cover all that up, and honestly, kind of bullshit about other things too. But the thing is you're right, Tim. They had a very hard task, and they executed it wonderfully. They really did. They really did. It was that was all just they really just had anyone could have done. I mean, the fact that Joe Biden was up there and it was somewhat he didn't get chased out is already that's a huge success for them.
Yeah, it was a better State of the Union than I think pretty much any that Obama did, because people talk about Obama, the great orator, and Obama, the fiery speaker. That guy kind of went away after the 2008 election.
For sure.
We never really saw that guy again.
For sure. No, he never came back. And And Biden's never been that orator. Like he's always been a plagiarist. He's always been a copycat.
He's a plagiarist. He's a glad hander. He's a backroom dealer.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me into like the thing that annoys me the most about Joe Biden. Like obviously all of his policies are terrible and they've always been terrible.
Yeah.
But the thing that annoys me the most is how he insists on trying to. I've taken to calling him in my head at least our gaslighter in chief. Because he will come out. He has a new phrase. He has a new phrase that he likes to pull out. Called we need to rebuild America from the middle class out.
Yes.
And then he adds in a thing. I've always said that, and it's like Joe. Joe, what the. Joe, you voted to lift the tariffs. You voted for every single free trade deal that ever came before you as a senator. Yeah. You said, yes, we're going to lose factory jobs. We're going to lose manufacturing jobs, and we're going to replace them with higher paid skilled jobs. And my buddies in the student loan industry are going to help these workers. And that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened. It's failed. Joe Biden abandoned the middle class for short-term profit in the 80s, and now he's just trying to gaslight the entire country into saying, "Oh no, I've always been, working class steel worker Joe."
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he that was doing that. I was gonna say his speech, it really kind of had it is a weird mix, I gotta say, but it's like this was like his best impersonation of a populist. Which in like today's terms is like kind of more of like he was doing his best Donald Trump / Sanders impression, where he was America first, build out from the middle class. I'm not trying to make the wealthy too unwealthy. Yet,
right. I'm a capitalist, guys. He reassured Congress several times of that.
Yes,
I'm a capitalist.
I'm a capitalist, but if the poor do good, we all do good. Like that was essentially that was the Joe Biden impression that was believable. Like that was the somewhat believable Joe Biden. And it's funny, Tim, because after this, I was like, oh, well, because I know you're not fucking with r/politics anymore. Like, or I mean, I don't know.
No, I am on r/politics all the time, getting into raging debates, collecting downvotes by the dozen.
Tim, but I love it. I can't stand that cesspool, man. Like it's pretty. I've over the last year, I've gotten a lot better with like online arguments of just avoiding them. I've gotten a lot better. I mean, granted, it's not an election season. During the election season, it's like, man, the guns are out. Like the guns are out. Like I'm ready to go.
Julian, the thing is, it's always election season.
Yeah, it is. That's true. But the every leap year election season. Yeah. Sorry, I was losing my train of thought here. What was I getting at? What was I getting at?
You said I avoid our politics.
Yes, I do. I do. Yeah. Well, you've been collecting the downvotes. I was looking at it like a little bit like last night, and I kind of lost my mind at it because of all of the I'm sure either bot paid or like fucking or just like DNC fucking stands who are just.
I think there are a lot of DNC operatives who just hang out on our politics. I kind of get that impression.
And that's I mean it's where I don't mean like I don't have like the evidence behind it on me, but it just from the look of it, I just keep thinking about this. I'm like, no, people who are working and who actually like are experiencing these policies aren't saying the same shit. Like,
no, hard at all. Reflects in the poll numbers. Like,
right.
He is deeply unpopular, and if his policies were actually helping people, they wouldn't be. Like, if he had passed Build Back Better, and people were getting like childcare subsidies, he wouldn't be at a 40% fucking approval rating. I can promise you that.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I was gonna say now my mind's on it. He kind of was doing the Obama thing of like really trying to like, and I think this is just kind of more for show than anything. I'm just trying to shake the olive branch around and say like, look, I'm a nice guy. I'm willing to work with you guys.
Well, yeah, yes,
it's like, and it really, it's like, well, that only works for this bipartisan shit that's gonna like fuck over your base anyway. Like that's really that's really the only bipartisan shit that y'all ever pass is stuff that pretty much just fucks the working class. Like it's pretty much there's a temporary like gimme like here or there, but it's usually because Republicans and moderate Democrats are there. They're temporary gimmies. Like he mentioned the child tax credit, and it's like, well, that's great, but like it was temporary, and
It was temporary.
right, and that's like the big problem with all these things. It was like a lot of these things were all fucking, they weren't long enough, and then as soon as like you have to take the fight again, you guys aren't willing to fight that hard again. And that's the biggest problem is it's these half measures, or not even half measures, these quarter measures with these moderate Democrats that like they know in the political career that to play it safe and to play it with corporate is like that's the safe way to have a career. But go on, Tim.
Right. Well, as I say, like going back to our politics, they get so mad at the idea that like anyone could want more than that.
Yes.
They passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill. How is that not enough for you? Because I don't fucking drive across the Ohio River on a daily basis. That doesn't mean shit to me.
Yeah. I mean, Carmen does. Oh no. I know some truck drivers who do. Oh shit.
And that's great. I'm glad that their job is about to get easier. We're spending billions of dollars to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean it's neat. I mean, we need trillions. Like that's the sad part is like we need trillions to like, because like he was saying we're 13th in infrastructure, and it's like, well, yeah, that little bit you gave us, like we're gonna be 15th in like 5 years. Like the rest of the world's developing, and we just keep not keeping up. We're staying stagnant, which means just pretty much not growth. I mean, he wasn't doing the Jimmy Carter thing. Thank God, because he knows it's not popular. He wasn't saying that like, well, you just need to like cut down on the energy bills. Like wear a sweater when you go outside. You know, that's fine. You know, that's what I do. Like, I mean, we're wearing sweaters. Like, why can't Americans just do that and live with less heat? That's like, this should just be how it is. I mean, they weren't trying that shit because it does not play. It does not. People need the kind of hope and prosperity, and like they need that. I mean, that's how Obama got elected. That's what gave him that big push is like the hope. And then I feel like what kept him in office was like being afraid of Republicans. At least that's why I voted for him in 2012.
Yeah, in 2012, he because Mitt Romney is just bad. Well, like not even bad as like you're like the most evil person ever, because like obviously it got so much worse.
It can get worse too.
He's about as boring as he's a warm glass of milk of a person as Mitt Romney. And I think you saw that they were ready to embrace someone like Trump, because during that 2012 primary cycle, like every single crazy in the race had their moment in the sun as number one. Yeah. And then they eventually all settled on Mitt Romney, kind of like how we all settled on Joe Biden.
It's just that the left party in America is, you know, they tend to go sway toward the moderate. If
we don't have a left party, we have a center party and we have a right wing party.
Yeah, the left party. Like I say, you definitely can't call them labor. They're not even.
No, they're not. They are absolutely not a labor party. And I don't know the details of that bill he was talking about, the pro-union bill.
The pro act.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Joe, like fighting the organization of unions is already illegal.
Yes.
But your supposedly pro-labor commissioners on the National Labor Relations Board haven't done a goddamn thing.
No,
there are multiple cases against Amazon that have been in front of that board for over a year at this point that haven't even been touched. No movement whatsoever.
They only really kind of seem to like established labor organizations that, and it's like and the keyword is established because it's like they have roots with the Democratic Party and they have sway with it, and it's like, and it's that type of thing when you talk to people who are anti-union advocates, because they just hear about like how corrupt unions are, and it's like, and we've talked a lot about the railroad union. We have an entire video up about it on this channel, but that was a bad look for the railroad leaders. Like when you break it down,
but the union leaders came off badly in that.
Yes.
They
Yes,
took
they
they accepted a sweetheart deal for the corporations and brought it to their membership, and their membership rejected it.
Yes. And the thing is, and the whole point of the union is you have to be able to use the numbers. And the leadership is there to give the demands, but it's there's an old political cartoon that has this. It's of like, you know, the start of like a labor strike, and the labor leader is like among the workers yelling at the boss, and like the boss invites the labor leader in and starts like giving him a lot of food, giving him cigars, and the guy gets fattened up, and then the boss like gives attention to him and says, "Hey, you need to go outside," and the union leader starts yelling at the workers. Yeah, so he starts yelling at the rebels, right? And that is how the system is. That is the system of labor autocracy. I'm sorry,
like so many people fucked up so many. Like Joe Biden could have even just said the word nationalization just once in public, and the labor unions could have said the word wildcat just once in public, and I feel like it would have moved the needle on that conversation, but they didn't.
Yeah, they're very. Yeah, they're really afraid to start a lot of conflicts over labor, and
they are. And you read like there's a like you wouldn't know it just from like watching the news or anything, but there is a massive strike occurring in France and the UK right now, where hundreds of thousands of workers are on strike. We need that kind of energy returned to the labor movement in this country. But until then, we get old man yelling at Congress, and it's still all half measures. It's we're going to increase the tax on stock buybacks until Reagan took office, and it wasn't a law that made it illegal. It was I think it was a SEC decision that made it legal, and for some reason, we just can't close that door back up.
Yeah, people don't have the courage to do it. They don't want to. They don't want to do it. They don't have the payroll. They don't care. Like they're making the money off their.
They get. I mean, yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Apart. Damn. Like I was just like, still the labor shit like really makes me mad because like he was. There are many parts of the speech where he was trying to just like applaud shit that like he was actively fighting or he's gotten the way of before, or like his policies like in the past have really fucked up, and then try to say like, okay, well, it's either it's the Republicans' fault doing it. I'm willing to change it. I'm trying to do like, I'm trying to be with the infrastructure thing. It's like, I'm the next FDR with this. Like I'm the most progressive motherfucker ever.
Yeah.
Like
biggest infrastructure bill since Eisenhower, which by the way, they always tout the price tag of that infrastructure bill.
Yes.
If you look at it, half of the price tag of that infrastructure bill was actually just the regular reauthorization for the funding of the infrastructure of U.S. infrastructure.
Exactamundo, like
any other circumstance that's just passed by the House separately and no one talks about it, but they folded it into this big bill so that they could run the price tag up.
Oh, and that's the hard thing. Like if you're living in Detroit and it's like your roads are still fucked, it's like it's like, well, then what the hell is this guy even saying? Like he's not even saying shit. And I remember there was one bit I heard in there that just was like, this is for your donors, where he was saying that like we're fighting like we're fighting these resort fees. Like so we're fighting like on getting you on these resort fees. And I'm like, what Americans are going to the fucking resort? I'm gonna say like none of the like the Americans outside that fucking building ain't going to the fucking resort, but inside that building, like they're like, oh yeah, I get to save like,
oh my god, yeah,
like that was like the Joe Biden like, I just saved you a whole bunch of money on your car insurance. I was like don't forget Republicans, like I saved you that little bit. That's kind of like a little Trump line of like, hey, and remember everyone, I brought back football. Okay, remember, like everyone, there wouldn't be football in 2020. You'd all be like inside without football if it wasn't for me. I did it. Oh no, this is
Yeah.
one of those moments that are very a Trump-esque Biden moment. The bodacious brag about like fuck off getting anything.
Yes.
All right.
You're in it.
What else was I gonna say? I also remember him saying, there's only a brief little bit about the war. Only a brief little bit about the war and the balloon, which I was surprised about. Well, the war, it's like things have changed. I mean, they're gonna find out like soon enough, like what this all leads to. I mean, I don't think he wanted to. I don't think a speechwriter wanted to focus too much on Ukraine in terms of like the money we've given out to it. It's like he just wanted to focus on like I brought the fight to Putin. It's here now, and that's all fine. And then he moved on to the fucking balloon, which he didn't even.
Yeah. Those things. It was like address it, make a strong statement, and move on.
Yeah. Be like a
like honestly. The aid to Ukraine, I am absolutely fine with.
Yeah,
it's everything else we spend on the military budget that is the problem.
Yeah,
because like
not me.
I know. You and I still differ on that.
Yeah, but no, it's true, Tim. I do agree. Also, even beyond that spending, the military budget is way too inflated, and
yes.
we could probably take away a couple of those.
Giving so much money to Raytheon and Boeing,
Lockheed Martin, man.
Then the Ukraine money would be a blip on the radar.
But the Ukraine money is also a subsidy for them too. It's also like where are they getting them? Where are they getting those missiles from? Like what companies they are getting them from? Like it's like. I mean, like they like that deal too.
So far, everything we've sent for them has just been kind of like shit that we have
in reserve.
Right.
Yeah. So what do we got to do with that shit that was in reserve then? That we have to replace it, right?
I mean, yeah, we definitely do.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they're getting their money out of it, like because like they're like we may be giving them shit that may have been older. But it's shit that like we were gonna have to have on the side. I mean, they're getting. I mean, they're still trying to get. I was glad there wasn't as much war shit about it because it's like I am with the whole hysteria last week. I am just like not very excited about like how many Americans are just like so gung ho for World War III over dumb shit. Like, they're just like like that part is terrifying, and it's like I don't like any of the like. Well, hey, we any of the fucks that go like, well, we can take them. They're real weak now. I get so fucking infuriated. Because it's always people who don't have their loved ones aren't fucking going. They're not sending themselves out there. Their loved ones aren't going out there to die. Their kids are taken care of. They're gonna have a future here. They want to be able. They want to be able to send other poor people's kids out to die so they can make a little extra cash, so they can be a little secure, so they can go on r/politics and say that they're fucking doing the right thing and you're immoral for not supporting that, and that's that type of shit. So, in terms of like a lot of the great delusions, including the economy and the political division, I was glad he didn't like super war hawk it out. I'm glad he wasn't. Yeah. I'm glad he wasn't saying like China, you're gonna pay for this, which is like that's what I'd kind of expect from a Trump speech.
Well, the timing of this China thing is really interesting too, just from like because like they're supposed to have a big meeting with China, yes. Or our ambassador
Anthony Blinken was supposed to go over there.
Yeah,
and they canceled it over this fucking balloon.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a lot of saber rattling. It's going to be a lot of I don't know. World War III when it comes, it's going to be quick, because there's not going to be a protracted like land battle between us and Russia or us and China. No. I really don't think that's ever.
There really shouldn't.
The nukes are going to fly, and then we'll have ourselves an apocalypse.
Yeah, Yeah, like they're not going to let it. They're not going to let it come down to a naval conflict, like a blue sea navy conflict. They're not going to let it come down to a land or air conflict. It's
No, I found out today my cousin is actually he's career Navy.
Okay.
Started was previously the captain of a nuclear sub. Then spent years as an instructor at Annapolis, and now he is stationed in Nebraska. And I was like asking my dad, I was like, what the hell was the Navy doing in Nebraska? He is at some underground silo.
Yeah. They're out there, man. They are out there. It's it. Those those underground subdivisions that we have all across the Midwest.
Yeah.
That we were so worried about, like, damn, is that weather balloon going to take pictures of this shit? Damn, they're going to find out where all our government cheese is, where we stuff all the cheese down there to keep the prices high. That's right, Wisconsin farmers. Your government is taking your cheese and throwing it underground and keeping it there to make sure that you can't make more money.
The farmers are doing that shit themselves, actually.
Yeah, they are. I'm appealing to the the conspiracy of it all. Because it's a damn subterranean, like, where everything's cooler underground, like, type of shit, where it's like there's like one tunnel that goes in and out, and that's pretty much it. And it's big enough for like military trucks to go in.
Yeah.
It's full of government cheese. So much good cheese. What I have my note here. I'm sorry. A little bit earlier, my cat like totally messed up my display and like knocked himself off my table and he threw my notebook off. I was like, it was a little
very not tight butthole of you, Georgie.
Very not tight butthole of you, Georgie. His name is George. You can call him. I mean, for our purpose, we should call him King George because it's just
King George.
King George V. Yes. I forgot the Tyree Nichols family bit. He used them as a prop. Talked about his very
got the kid's name wrong.
What?
Got the kid's name wrong.
What
called him Tyler?
Fuck. Poor kids are just as smart as white kids. Like, that's that kind of gaff. Like that's what that
really
is.
Yeah.
Like, where it's like just show you don't give a fuck without saying you don't give a fuck. Just basically prop them up and kind of just lukewarmly let them know that he's done enough and they ain't gonna do it shit else. Like they passed their little George Floyd act that, like, still with that pass, this shit happened.
It hasn't passed, actually. It passed in the House, but not in the Senate.
God. Well, even banning chokeholds, what would that do for the situation? Like, this is a different situation. It's a different type of problem than like the things they're trying to address.
The big thing is ending qualified immunity and allowing citizens to sue police officers for violating their constitutional rights.
And that's it. And here's the thing is, like, I'm in support of just like, I want a cop standards and their pay to reflect that. I want those to be high. I want them to not have to worry about their kids going to college. I want them to not have to worry about money. I want them to not have to worry about medical bills, any of this shit. I don't want them to have the stresses of poverty.
But at the same time, they should also be required to carry professional insurance.
Yes.
Like doctors and lawyers and therapists and everybody else does.
Because it's that serious. And I would argue that vital of a profession for society, where it's like I agree. You need people who are qualified intellectually, physically, and morally. Right.
That's something you and I used to argue a lot about, but I think we've moved past our hashtag defund the police.
I think most of that is like, and I still support defund the police, and I'll still say this to conservatives.
We need to get the tanks off the streets, but like I said, George Floyd wasn't killed by a tank.
No, he wasn't.
Jacob Blake wasn't shot by like a military grade assault rifle.
No, it was. I mean, they still have those things, and they're gonna. What I don't like about those things is they do use those to deter us from. our First Amendment rights. Like the reason those tanks were on the streets weren't to protect shit. They were to deter you from protesting, which they'll put out selectively depending on the protest. And that's, I mean, I'll argue with people about that all day. What else? What other bullshit in there? Oh yeah, holding Big Pharma accountable. That was a funny one that was when that's when I heard. I don't know if it was. It would sound like some Republican. I mean, it sounded like some dude, but like I know Marjorie Taylor Greene was yelling, but that's when I heard like, "It's your fault. It's your fault."
Was the fentanyl. That was the fentanyl thing.
Yeah, that was a little fentanyl. I mean, and he did the whole little like, there's a girl named Sarah, and she was in high school. She discovered pills, and that's when fentanyl came into it. And then some guy straight like, "That's your fault." Like,
yeah.
I go on.
They want to turn so as far as I understand the current debate about fentanyl, the Republicans are focusing on fentanyl coming in across the border.
Yeah.
From Mexico. And it's like you have corporations in the United States mass producing the shit and selling it legally. You have doctors prescribing it legally in this country. You have Walmart and Walgreens filling those scripts with wild abandon.
Yeah. I mean, they're just trying to support the drug war. At that point, it's like, yeah, they're just using fentanyl as like another, because it's a scare word right now. It's a scary, it's a scary, dangerous thing. And they're trying to, and like what they do, they always say that the drug war is like over the border. They never focus on like the shit that's like in here that gets manufactured. That's like, they don't focus on like, they only focus on crack like once like people start getting robbed and shit. Like, but while it's actually hurting people and fucking up their lives, they don't give a shit.
Correct. And it's like, so here's something I've thought a lot about, and I really especially think it applies to the opioid crisis. Holding corporate executives, and not just corporate executives, holding board members, holding major shareholders accountable for the actions of a corporation.
Yeah.
It's not enough. It's not enough to level a fine. It's not enough to find, one marketing executive who you can pin everything on. You need to lock up the CEO and the board of directors and anyone who owns more than like a 10% share in that company. And then maybe we'll get responsible corporate governance.
Yes.
In this country.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the big problems about this too, and like this is going to be a big like transitional problem, is that like when like if the hammer ever does come down on that, who's going down first? And then who are they coming after? Like that's
like corporation wise?
Yeah.
I mean, the hammer is never coming down on that.
Yeah.
So it's
that's my question. It's like,
well, all right. I look at like OxyContin it was like the first huge one.
Yeah.
And that was all one family. It was a family owned pharmaceutical company, and they are massive class action litigation. But they are, I'm not sure the status of it. The last I checked, they were attempting to work out a sweetheart deal where, oh yes, the company will give you all of its assets, but this family already drained the company of all of its assets and diverted into their personal funds, and they want to set up a deal where they'll settle for a pittance from the corporation and then be personally shielded from liability. That cannot be allowed to happen. No. Like that's one case where the law does have like a family, a group of people who were materially responsible for this crisis in their sights.
Yeah.
And they are on the verge of letting them get off with it.
Yeah. It's, well, that's what I'm like wondering about, like if and when it ever does happen, like what's going to be like, what's that situation going to try and like, what's it going to look like, and how can we make that situation like come to fruition? Like what kind of situation would it take to have it be like, how unpopular would that one family have to be within a political establishment to piss off like enough people where it's like they can't, enough politicians where they can't they can't brush this off their back. They can't just like swat it away. It's going to be haunting them forever. It's like it's a toxic part of their legacy.
I have no idea. I
It's-
really don't know. I mean, it took Enron literally costing, what was it, like millions of people most of their 401ks, and that company some executive officers did actually go to jail for a little bit,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
company itself folded. But guess what? All those executives are back out and making huge amounts of money again.
Doing better than we ever could.
Yeah, exactly. Like Boeing was caught literally making decisions that led to the death of hundreds of Americans.
Yeah.
We have the emails.
Yeah.
Where they were like, yeah, we could fix this problem, but it would cost, a couple $1 million to fix. And they're like, no. The chances of people dying, while significant, it's not going to happen long enough for it to be worth it.
It's not happening with us. It's just not going to happen.
A year later. So, I don't know. I really don't.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like it'd really only have to be like there'd have to be people in the government who like aren't connected to them at all. As a matter of fact, who are completely hostile, who have enough power of the pulpit to actually like have some political fucking wrecking ball behind them. Yeah. But that's like the only thing I can think of is that because it's too much of a boys club for any of these politicians to want to hold any of their good friends and donors accountable for any of this shit. It's all going to be it's going to be like at the State of the Union address. It's all going to be hand waving and like, I'm good for this. And guess what? You're gonna have to pay your share, but that's for the best. And it's like, that's what I learned from FDR is that you have to take your fair share. And it's like, you want to save capitalism. That's all it's going to be. And
so you had like people in the government who are unconnected to that, and that kind of brings me to all right, so it's pretty obvious Joe Biden is going to run again.
Yeah. It made South Carolina the first primary state too. We'll see if Iowa changes that, but it looks like for this round it's going to be
it's not going to matter this time, but next time around when there's actually a Democratic Party primary, it'll
be Iowa. It'll be Iowa again. I think you're probably right.
Iowa is saying we're gonna have our fucking caucus before any of you guys, no matter that's like baked into their state law. It's baked into their state law that they have to hold the first contest in any primary cycle.
Yeah.
And they might lose half their delegates at the DNC, but I don't know. It's gonna be messy. It's not going to matter this time because Joe Biden is going to run unopposed. But like one thing I get asked a lot in my arguments on our politics is that like, well, if it's not Joe Biden, then who should it be? Who do you want leading the way on the quote unquote left? And that's the problem. That is the biggest problem I think the left has right now, is that there is just nobody.
There was Bernie Sanders, and he took his movement and he crumbled it and threw it away. And said like, I'm not gonna do a dirty break, which a dirty break with like, if he did a dirty break with Joe in 2020, he would the power he would be enormously more relevant. Like the left politics would be so much further than where it is right now. If he had been willing to go through with the dirty break. But like we might, it's like, it really, it's, that's just really, that was my big, that was my big crusade over the 2020 election, is just to like tell people who like are good people who call themselves progressives probably, that voting for Joe Biden is just, it's not going to solve any of that problem. It's actually going to like hurt the left more in the long run.
I think it's right because like there is no there's not even really a forum like the thing I was looking forward, the thing to look forward to in a primary is that like that is a chance.
Mhm.
That is a laboratory in which we can make a new leftist leader.
Yeah.
But
And it's like not like Bernie's politics were fucking there's many people, like for many of the people on the left who are going to these rallies, he was still a compromise. He was still a compromise. They're the people who are the fanatics who will go out there and be like, he touched me, but like they go crazy for politicians every fucking 4 years. Like they're buying into the emotional stuff. But
yeah,
for a lot of people who were uniting about this, it was and because he was getting a lot of diverse people in there. There were conservatives who were going, well, it's like yeah, I hate the Democrats, but I don't like Trump, and I would entertain Bernie after I hear a little bit more about them. Like there, there are. I'm not saying it's a majority of the Republicans. I don't think it is, but it's like there are conservatives out there who aren't libertarians, who aren't like far right MAGA Republicans. There are even some MAGA Republicans who like only stick with Trump.
well, yeah, I think it's honestly actually more MAGA Republicans than it is conservatives, because like a conservative, someone who actually believes in conservative values would never support Bernie. But MAGA Republicans don't actually believe in conservative values. They're just fucking pissed off.
Yeah. And I kind of think that's a similar thing to like some libertarians. Like I don't think a lot of libertarians have studied up on their shit. But like I think there are people who like they're libertarian because like that's the edgy thing for them. Like that's like edgy where they're from. And they don't quite understand it yet. And if they actually like came down to like these candidates versus another one, they would probably be more of a Bernie supporter if it was like Bernie or Trump.
Yeah.
Like
the Bernie Gary Johnson guys, they're pretty cringe, but a lot of them I think probably got on board with Ron Johnson back in 2008 when he was
absolutely
like, this guy's gonna legalize weed.
Well, and this is a thing, like we talk about this once in a while with libertarians, because it's like we both don't agree with that ideology like in the least.
That's a Ron Johnson. I meant Ron Paul.
Ron Paul. Yeah. Well, we here had a tough little election this fall in Wisconsin, so I know it's not too surprised. But with libertarians,
Ron Johnson, by the way, one of those people Joe Biden mentioned, who has put out a proposal to sunset Medicare and Social Security.
Oh, that's nice. Joe Biden was talking about years ago. Goddamn pieces of shit. Anyway, with libertarians, it's like I feel like after like 2004, after the 2004 election, and after like Iraq was like shown to be disaster, like Iraq and Afghanistan were kind of shown to both to be like quagmire disasters. The Libertarian Party started like really ramping up. Like there were a lot of people who were like tended to be more conservative who then joined the Libertarians.
Well,
and I was gonna say that's because of a lane that they kind of occupied, because the Democrats weren't really anti-war either. Because they're just as much like war hawks as like anyone else, and there was like a branch of conservatives who weren't quite that. But they also like there was no other lane, like there was no left lane for them to occupy. Like there wasn't anything power. The only thing we can talk about is like the Greens, and like
the Greens took a lot of heat for costing Al Gore the election, and that severely hurt their position in national politics. The Greens, I think, were much more prominent in the 90s. And then when 2000 happened, a lot of people were mad at the Greens.
Well, the thing is, though, is like they need to kind of take that with pride, because like that is what third parties are supposed to do. They're supposed to like steal votes from like the main parties to shift them on the issues. And it's like I don't expect
they didn't shift that, but they didn't really actually shift anybody on any issues.
And guess what? And guess what's happening is that the right's gaining more power because the two parties are refusing to shift on the issues. And that's what it is. Like they have to play like funny, they have to play like bigger political tricks Because then after that, they got the Obama. They took a rock star from Illinois and said it was the greatest young speaker ever, and they got their first black president in, and now they don't have that card anymore. So that's and then now they're trying to use the one. Now they're still trying to do like the woman card. Once they can find a woman likable enough who's willing to be, they can find a Democrat woman who's likable enough, which is like good fucking luck. Because man, did you see that big flightless bird during that address that they kept panning to? And I'm like, God, I don't want to say that fuck's name because they don't deserve to have their fucking name said because they wore that fucking piece of shit because they're an attention seeking piece of shit. I don't even know who
you're referring to. You're gonna have to say their name.
Okay.
At least put it in chat. At least put it in the private chat if you really don't want to say it on the air.
Okay. All right. I'll put it in the private chat. But it's like this piece of shit pretty much just wore this just for attention. Like it was.
No. She's the biggest. She is definitely the biggest piece of shit of all of them. And I think that's actually something where the centrists I argue with on our politics hate her, as she is actually just universally hated by everyone in the country right now.
Yeah, as she should be. As she should be. Like
and she's gonna be a one-term senator because she's gonna get primaried by the Democrats, and then she's gonna lose probably to a Republican.
Probably to a Republican. Like she's in Arizona, correct? So
yes,
it's just well, whatever. Fuck them in their dress. The squad. Yeah, no, there was I didn't get much of a glimpse of the squad. They're irrelevant. They're relevant.
They really kind of are, and they've made themselves so by falling too much in line with party leadership.
So well, that's all they went there for is just to have a career, and that's what made me. I think that's what got my vitriol so raged about AOC is that her rhetoric when she was on the campaign trail was like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to take the fight to Democratic leadership. And then she went in there and voted for Nancy Pelosi for House Speaker without a single fucking ask. Even though they could have done what these Republicans did with this forcing a vote and keeping McCarthy fucking on his toes and getting demands that they needed. And they didn't do that shit. They didn't do that.
Votes for Medicare for all.
Right. And that's it.
Every fucking Democrat can say that they support Medicare for all. Put it on the floor and let's see who actually supports it.
Yep. And my people were arguing last year that's just like, well, that's not going to do anything. That's going to hurt the cause of Medicare. And it's like, well, it's not even a part of the fucking conversation now. Not at all. It's completely irrelevant. It's like, and that was in the middle of a pandemic. And I'm like, well, that's very relevant. That's very relevant to talk about Medicare for all in the middle of a pandemic. It's like a prime opportunity. And a prime opportunity we might not ever see in our lifetime again. Yeah. So I hold a lot of vitriol for them, like fucking a once in a lifetime opportunity for their own career. Like I hold a lot of resentment and hate for them because of that. And it's like, and I asked them humbly, please prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong.
Let's hope so.
Please do. I'll happily eat my words. I'll happily go ahead and prove me wrong that you've been playing the long game and that you've been making all these backroom deals, that losing all these committee assignments that you use as an excuse to have to vote for the Israel Air Dome. Even though of course a person on your squad is from Palestine, you're just gonna go oh no, that's fine. We'll just make sure to send some money to go kill some of our people. That's fine.
Right. But I mean, they get in trouble just for voting present. Even what they're doing gets them in trouble. They are in a tough spot because Democratic leadership is just so against them. But they're also afraid of any conservative support. They're afraid to even appease in one way to just go no. Because I think what keeps them in line is they keep being told well, if you go against Democratic leadership, that makes us look weak. And that helps the Republicans. We're going to say that you're helping the Republicans. And they're so terrified of that, where it's
I mean, they're terrified of their own media saying like, well, they're only helping Republicans, while the Republicans are saying that like we hate her more than anything. Like we hate her guts, and like she's like a communist devil. It's like, well, it's not going to make sense if you do that.
Right,
It's
AOC, they already call you a communist devil. Can we get some actual communism in here, please?
That's what I mean, that's why it's always funny to me when like people on the internet, they like get big debating conservatives, and it's like, well, they're idiots. Like, like you're debating conservatives. Like what, like,
yeah.
Like, it's like are you okay? Like,
you can't actually debate conservatives about policy anymore.
No. They just want
to talk about like they just want to talk about culture war bullshit.
Yes,
it's
yes, the same thing that our ruling class pretty much just wants us to be fighting over is like defending AOC. Like AOC got death threats too, and like everyone gets death threats. Everyone gets death threats if you're in Congress. Like everyone. Like, sorry, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have signed up. I'm sure.
I think that's wrong. I don't think Joe Biden, when he was in Congress, was getting death threats.
I highly doubt that. I think someone was probably going like them, like someone was saying some shit. Like I'm in no doubt that every motherfucker who's in Congress has gotten a death threat somewhere. And it's just like that's the fucking deal. I'm sure Ted Kennedy told her that. Like if you go into politics, get ready for your first. I'm sure he's got his first death threat posted up on the wall, like framed. Like, that was the first crazy that said that I'm gonna come and get you.
Yeah, the internet is horrible. And the internet was a mistake, but
thanks,
Al
Gore.
You can't let that stop you from doing shit.
Well, no. I mean, you had to do your best. Our enemies are definitely using it to their advantage. Like they don't mind using it at all. They don't mind getting called crazy by the opposition. And as a matter of fact, they fucking embrace it. They do what what this crazy fucking guy Graham Hancock does, and he goes, "Oh, you think I'm fucking wrong? Well, you're just trying to oppress me. You just hate my ideas, and you're just trying to oppress me." And oppression is disproving him. So it's like,
yeah.
All right. Anything else about that? I'm trying to look at my notes for any last observations. I think I got it all. It's my fault. Lots of the hiding divisions. Very, very bad. Good job, speechwriters, on trying to like hide it, but you can't hide vitriol. You can't hide true vitriol and disagreement and political division that has been a brewing like crazy. There is a fight within the ruling class, and it is not coming to any standstills anytime soon.
Yeah, basically nothing is going to happen with the federal government for the next few years. And yeah, we are kind of just stuck with the status quo.
Yeah, and we're getting ready. And hey, we have the next election to get ready for. When starting off in South Carolina, what Republican will be nominated in one of the most conservative states in the country?
Well, like the Republican primary will be a lot more interesting to watch. And honestly, what I hope happens is that DeSantis gets the nomination and Trump runs as an independent, and that whole group just tears themselves apart.
Yeah. Well, I think Trump would probably play ball if DeSantis was.
You think so? Because he's been floating pictures of DeSantis with like a group of high school girls trying to call him like a pedophile groomer.
That's just business.
Just over the past couple days.
That's just business to them. Like, these people, like that mudslinging for Trump, I feel like that's just like nothing. Like that's kind of like when Gordon Ramsay calls someone a fucking donkey, and people are like, "You're being disrespectful," and he's like, "I'm just giving you criticism." Like, it's like potato. It's like, I mean, it's kind of like how like, because fucking Kamala Harris tried to do that with Biden. She was ready to like do like the predator thing with him. And then that all like went
And
away.
then everyone just agreed that that was no longer a thing. Yes,
Yeah,
all at once.
Yeah. And she was hitting him hard during the debates on like I was a kid who was getting bussed. Like I was that kid that you did that. And she dropped all that too, which is just like, well, yeah, that's these motherfuckers though. Like they'll throw out that like my opponent is an inhumane, like immoral piece of shit, and he's my running mate, and they're great, and then we're gonna take this country to great places. You know, like that's this fucking game, and it's like honestly, it would be a little like. I mean, and that's a big flaw of Bernie Sanders too, is that Bernie Sanders was being told, I think, by his advisors that like, well, if you want to be like a VP or like you want to like work with Biden at all in the future, you need to be nice to him. And that's not the case. It's like they don't. It's like Logan. It's like Logan Roy. It's like you have to be a killer. You can't just go in there and like not be ready to take your shot. You have to be ready to kill. Like they're not going to respect you. They're not going to respect you unless you're dangerous to them.
Yes.
They're not going
to. And Bernie Sanders is the opposite of dangerous to anybody.
Yes. Like he had the potential to, like I said to him, he had the potential to be dangerous. Like he had that was the strongest chance of like having these issues at. And that's most of the time I hear any defense of Bernie Sanders. It's mostly people going, well, he advanced these issues. And then I say, well, he abandoned them. And now look at where we are. We're in a weaker position than like when he started out. And now he's just going back to being like, okay, I'll do the same Bernie Sanders thing I've done throughout my career. It's like, well, you're not having a presidential run. You're not giving the reins to anybody else. You're not like, and that's what the funny thing is, like to rally that energy, that was all just about like calling out Rich and Medicare for all. That's it. Like that's really like the big uniting umbrella about all that is that Medicare for all and like, have like, yeah, just cut the middleman out, stop the extortion. And it's like, well, maybe if they just want to change the brand a little bit of it, or it's like, you know, cease the medical extortion or something like that. Like, cause that's really all it is. Like when you talk to
conservatives, you also bring up stuff like student loans and stuff like that later got purloined by the Biden campaign.
Yeah. And I think they just pull that out for fun. But like, honestly, as long as you have the uniting, because that's mostly like the main the staple of that campaign was just M for A. And then we can talk about student loans or any of that shit, like as a secondary or third issues, but like M for A, that's the primary one. That's what was that's a uniting factor. And it's to be able to like kind of shout that mantra out again and use that as the calling cry. Cause that was stronger than Occupy Wall Street or like tax the rich, any of that shit. Like that was a uniting cause for it. Cause it did take took two strong Democratic nominations to the floor.
And if you just get Medicare for all passed and in place, I guarantee you it's never going away.
Yeah.
Because every other developed country that has put in place some form of universal health care, that shit does not get repealed.
No.
Because once people have access to free health care, they're never going to want to give it up.
No.
Like the Labour Party that passed their health care in England was out of office a few years later, but guess what wasn't gone? The fucking the fucking National Health Service.
And that's not to say the Tories haven't been trying. They've been trying.
The Tories have been trying, but like it's like how no one really considered Social Security to be like an option in this country until FDR made it a fucking option.
Yep.
And now once it's there, you can never take it away.
Yep. You're right. It becomes a fucking mainstay, or just any of these.
Which is why Barack Obama was truly the greatest failure in modern political history, because he had that chance.
Yeah, and he just didn't want to do it.
He just didn't take it.
He's like, I want to live on Martha's Vineyard, man.
All right. Yeah, I think that's
that'll about wrap it up.
About
well, Tim. Yeah, no, Tim, it's a strange future that we're living. It's strange times that we're living in, but I'm happy to be living in them. I'm happy to be in a time where we can talk about this well over the internet. I'm happy where I can listen to this. I can listen to the State of the Union at work.
Yes.
Still right
we
now.
Can talk about it on Discord. Yes.
Yeah, that's all this is staying pretty cool. And I'm grateful for this. And I'm looking forward to the fight that we're going to bring to the man in the future.
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
we're gonna be ready next time.
We will be ready.
All right.
next time.
Ready next time. And until then, I'm gonna go visit James Kunka's website.
Yes.
James Kunka at bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
He is the artist behind our theme song.
Very much so. And also, we'd like to thank Jennifer Much for our awesome base logo that is behind us here. I'll just give you a little show of that here. Ooh.
So
yeah, just based is all hell. Like she's amazing. And happy birthday to her. It was like, I think it was a day or two ago. So happy birthday, Jennifer Much.
yes, indeed.
All right, Tim. I think that does it for us. So until next time, keep working.
Keep on working.